Hello and welcome to Excel VBA, dude. This is going to be episode 1. I'm Danny Blazer. We're going to start with Userform controls. I like to just get right down to the nitty gritty of things. Controls have always been a fun thing for me, and I like to just give a good start on presenting something you could use in an office or for consulting work, but just things that I've had to learn through the years, basically on Google, to accomplish what I need to do, and I learn something with everything that I do every day. So, with user form controls, we're going to learn about accessing the controls properties and methods. Then we'll get into using the object property versus others to compare those differences. We're going to be creating temporary controls, and the keyword here is dynamically. It's creating a user form, a blank user form, adding controls dynamically at runtime, and then they're just temporary. When the user form is closed, they go away. They're not physically on there. And that's what I mean by dynamically. Then we're going to apply it to sheet data to pull data from a sheet, learn how to pull that into a user form. And then we're going to be just adjusting the scroll height property dynamically as we fill user form vertically when it exceeds the height of the user form, and talk about those intricacies. So here we go. Hello here. So what we're going to do here is accessing controls, properties, methods. We're going to start with some sheet data to play with. So I did a few cells here of comic characters. So let me open up the visual editor, either Alt 11 or the Visual Basic button up there. I'm going to do Alt 11. I love the keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to insert first a blank user form. It doesn't really matter what's in it. In fact, nothing's going to be in it because we're going to create them dynamically. If I wanted, I could just change this to add controls, something to the context of what we're doing. Add controls form. And now that that's there with no controls on it, I'm going to insert a module. And the only thing you need referenced here is, as you see, most packages of Excel, I'm sorry, with your Windows, you have 4 highlighted. I made this one's a default for mine. I made Forms 2.0. You do need that to utilize this function for this library. So make sure that's there from the tools area. I'm going to make a sub here, add controls, give myself some space. So what we're going to start here is get inside the controls. So first I'm going to dim a few variables. Oops, pardon me. There we go. Next, let me get the worksheet. I think we're going to need to better use the worksheet just for easy coding, right? So we're going to set what we need. I'm going to set the worksheet. Control and spacebar also. That's what brings up the IntelliSense without having to type a full stop. So worksheets, it's a blank worksheet, so it's just sheet 1, and I can't spell today. So that's that. Now when you add, we're going to have to add them in a loop, and when you add multiple properties, when you adjust multiple properties for a control item, or for anything, for any object, it's better to use a with statement just for easy coding as well. So with that said, we have to get the count of our 17 cells here. We could easily do that with a function, a worksheet function called count A. Counts all non-blank cells. It takes up to 30 arguments. We just need 1. We're going to do the entire range of column A. Okay. That'll count everything that's not blank, which is, fortunately for us, all we need. Otherwise, we would just adjust that on an as-needed basis. Now we're going to iterate with y equals 1 to y. Give myself some space. There we go. Okay, we got some nice space going. So it's important to note here that we're referencing the cells in the sheet, either range A1 or by cells 1. 0 doesn't exist, so we'll error out if we do that. That's why it's from 1 to y. I'm sorry for x, I mistyped that. From 1 to this count. It's to note here, if we were referencing the let me go up to here, the Userform object, or the Microsoft Forms page up here, they represent, it's a 0 index, so we can't start at 1. We'll error out on the very first one. But we're not referencing the controls, we're referencing the sheet on the data and placing them into the controls. If we weren't, we'd need to do that. So what we're going to do here is, let's see. So what we're going to do here, let's start with the with statement. With the form, we named it. What did we name it? Add. There we go. Form. And controls, property, and .add method. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to skip down and give myself some room. So now on the add, we have to name what we're going to do. As you can see, I do a comma just to pull it up. You don't need name or visibility. Those are not required, though you can't. They are parameters for them. So now this prog ID, we can't just put. We're going to use a label, for example. We can't just put a label. It won't work like that. We'll error out. In fact, let's go ahead and see what happens if we step through this here with the F8 key. Oh my God! Next with F4. Okay. So end with. Here's what I did. I forgot end with. See, I just go too fast here. So x equals 17, as we thought it would. For y equals 1 to 17. Now we're going to get an invalid class string error here because this label doesn't exist. So let me end it. Let me go back up to the browser here. Let me go to the other tab I have open for us. So the add method for the forms that we're using. Here's the prog IDs. See, it is label in this fashion. That's the type name of it, but we can't use that. We have to use the prog ID as it says here. So for label, I'm just going to copy and paste that. It brings back to the user form, but that's what it'd be. This is also to note that in the tab, I'm in developer, I go to insert, and the ActiveX object I want is the, actually where is the label here? Is it this guy? Yeah, when I enter a label, you'll see that it's also the same thing up here. So let me go ahead and get that out of here, bring back up the editor, give myself some space. So let's start adding here. So the important thing is we want to add a top. That's the distance from the top of user form. We'll equal that to say 10. Left, same exact thing. We'll do a little bit in the middle. Let's say we do 30. Let's see here. Now you'll notice that the user form, let me add a caption just so we could see what we're dealing with here. I'll add a label. So there's the caption, which is the text that goes in there. So I hit enter. There's my misspelled hello. So this is the text that goes in caption. Now unfortunately, let me delete that out of there. These are all the object properties. So object property versus other properties. These are objects properties, meaning when we add a form in this method, let me go back to the module. When I hit dot again to bring up IntelliSense, these are things that are relevant to all the forms as a default base and not to specifically. So caption's not in here. To do that, I do object. Now IntelliSense doesn't show up to this, but anytime I bring up object, I'm now accessing that list we just saw a few seconds ago. So caption will work for us. Since we're iterating down the sheet, not the user form collection, I could do this if I wanted to. So from 1, I could use the cells. The row index will be our iteration. Y, which is 1, which is not 0 invalid if we were to reverse this. column A, which is 1. Now you don't have to put dot value, but it's always best to be explicit. I see a lot of coding online where people don't use these, and that's no bueno for me. So while we're at it here, I could do width. Let me do just width at 20. See, we could take control here and do what we want with it. So that seems like there's enough to it right there. I could even give it a name if I want. If I wanted to give a name to refer to it with other code, I could do that. See, test label. I can concatenate that with iteration with y. So now here's also something to bring up. If I run this, we are going to see something. So I'm going to hit the F5 key or hit play. I'll just hit F5, and it ran with no errors, but nothing happened, because at the end of the code you have to tell your form to show. So I'm going to go get my form back here, add controls.show. Now I'm going to run it. Now here's one thing. So there's two things wrong with this. There's only one, and I can tell you that's because there's no transparency. Otherwise it'd be all the letter would be in front and back of each other and be squished up. And we didn't adjust the top. The top is a distance from the top of the user form, and that's 10 for everything, so they are directly stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to go ahead and call something as good as any. I'm going to call it buffer as another integer. The buffer is going to do exactly what it says, and I'm going to contain it in the loop. So buffer equals itself, which starts at 0, plus, let's see, if the height is 20, I want to go up at least that much so to have some room. So let's just say 40. So it equals itself, which the first iteration, it always equals 0. But like I said, I like to be explicit. It always equals 0, but I like to tell it equals 0. Just a good practice, especially for bigger projects. So what I'm going to do now is add that here, plus buffer, which is 0. So the first one will start there. And if you notice before, the sizing wasn't really correct. So if I do dot, you'll see here again there's no auto size. But if I go to object dot auto size, it's a boolean, true or false. I'll go to true. Pretty sure that's the exact syntax, but we won't know until we run it. So let's hit F5 and see what we get with this one. There we go with that. As you can see, auto size worked, but we still have a few things to do. What did I do for width? I made it 20. Let's go ahead and make it, let's make it 40. Let's double that. And we want dot single. Oh, sorry, multi-line. Is it? See, that's another thing we have to use the object property for. So let me go back to the form, throw in a dummy label, and look at something we want. What do we want to change? Text align is good. Let's see what we want here. Well, we just got to increase the width of it. So let me delete that. Let me go back. Let me run this again. F5 key. Okay, we got better. Let's see here. That's because of that. So let me go back to that. So let me take this auto size. Let me just comment that out and see what we get without that. Oh, there we go. It's cutting off the bottom of it because of the width. So if you know what this property is, this one is actually word wrap. And again, object property here. Word wrap equals false, so it doesn't. It's the same as sheet data. Let me hit F5 one more time, and now we're getting there. We just got the width a little more. So let's give the width what it wants. Let's say 60 because there's nothing else there. Let me delete this. what we can do too is change the, oh my god, typing is so horrible sometimes. Change the font size. Let's go 12. Alright, so let me hit F5 again. That's looking sharp. There we go. Let me change the width again to 80. Now, as you noticed, let's do that again, F5. There's no scroll bar here. There's two things we have to do. First, we have to make the scroll bar visible, and we only have to do that once. So let's take our control form. Let's do here, let's see, scroll bars equals, this is the enumeration with 4 options. Here we go. We only want vertical. So that'll show it. We just need the one time. But we do have to iterate the scroll height. So let me, oops, apologize here. Let me go back up here. Scroll height, you see, is not in there. So I have to use object again. Scroll height equals, now this has to iterate too. So what we can do is use the actual height of the user form itself, because the scroll bar won't matter until the scroll bar integer number or long is high, is at least as a user form. Otherwise there's no point. Has nothing to do with the contents in the user form. So since I'm going up a buffer each time, how about I plus that buffer? And because it's in the width loop but above the other buffer, let me add the additional 40 onto it. Let me get the spacing just perfect for us here. Alright, let me get rid of this. So here is our code so far. Let me scroll up just so we could see. Alright, I'm going to hit F5 again. Oh, what is that? There we go. Scroll height. So doesn't support property or method. If I hit F8, step through, object does not support property or method. So what does that tell us here? This tells us to go back and double check our user form. We don't need a label there, it was just there here. So let's see what we got here. There we go. So it's not the control we're adding, it's the user form itself. A label doesn't have a scroll height, so yeah, this one's my bad here. Let me take this out. So we do add it here. See, learning is always such a fun thing. Or maybe I do it on my own time and I just fly through and I don't really think. So this is a good way to help me share the methodology with this. So I'm going to go ahead, find my form. Form.scrollHeight is there. Equals. I'm going to do the same thing. Dot height plus the buffer plus the additional 40. Even if, yeah, if we were after that, we may not want to use the 40, but so it's too much. But let's see what we get if we run through all this. You ready? I'm going to hit play, and here we go. I'm going to scroll down. Let's hope for the best. Oh, we got a little too much. Too much. It looks like the height. Okay. So, why don't we take away the height, just do the buffer. Let's see what we get now. F5 again. Drag it over. Superman, Superman. One above all, one above all. So, there we have it. We have our user form with labels added into it. We created them dynamically. So, it goes at runtime, but when the user form is closed, all variables are destroyed and the labels never existed statically anyway. So that is how we do that. We use a loop to reference the sheet data. We add them in. We only need to increment the height. We increment the data from the cells with the iteration within our loop. We add the height right here, and then we we added the buffer to increase the top there. And then we did this vertical. We only had to do that once, and then of course at the end we show to see our work. So we could access all the other properties if we wanted to from within here, from within the object property. We could if we wanted to. So there's a lot of different ways we could do that, a lot of different adaptations. There's text boxes. There's all kinds of other stuff to come. So if you like what you've seen, go ahead and subscribe there at the bottom. This is just a video of one of countless to come. So I hope everything was fun for you guys. Until next time, have a good night. See you later.